Baltimore City Council, Ways and Means Committee. We are back for fiscal year 2022 budget hearing, specifically City Council Ordinance 21-0080, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. I'm Councilman Eric Costello from the 11th District, Chair of the committee. I'm joined in chambers by Councilman Robert Stokes, 12th District, member of the committee, and Councilman Isaac Yitzi Schleifer, 5th District, member of the committee. Joining us across the hall, City Council President Nick Mosby. In addition, Councilwoman Felicia Porter, 7th District, and Councilman James, I'm so sorry. Councilwoman Felicia Porter, 10th District, and Councilman James Torrance, 7th District. Joining us virtually, Councilman Mark Conway from the 4th District. Council Vice President Sharon Middleton, 6th District, member of the committee. Councilman Ryan Dorsey, 3rd District, member of the committee. Councilman Chris Burnett, 8th District. Representing Mayor Brandon Scott, Natasha Meehue, and Nina Themlis. Representing Council President Nick Mosby, Matt Stegman, and Nikki Thompson. We also have Marguerite Curran, staff to the committee. We're here today for Baltimore City Department of Recreation and Parks, BCRP, Rec and Parks. We know it by several names. Happy to have you all here today. This session is going to go until 5:30 p.m. We're going to break for dinner at 5:30. We might take our dinner break a little later, depending on how long this session goes, because we're about 10 minutes late here. And then the nightcap this evening is going to be Baltimore City Public School System, starting at 6 p.m. or a half an hour after we first take our dinner break. In chambers, we have Director Reggie Moore. Director, I'm going to ask if you bring your presentation up. How many slides do we have? You got about 11 services?
Yes, sir.
11, okay. Director, I'm going to ask if you keep your presentation to about 20 minutes. I know you've got a lot to go through. Your department's doing a lot of great work in the city. But of course, we're all very familiar with what you're doing. So our colleagues have a number of questions. So if you could keep it around 20 minutes, Director, take it away.
All right, Councilman Costello, thank you for having us today. Again, my name is Reginald Moore, Executive Director for Baltimore City Recreation and Parks. I am here also with my CFO in chambers, Mr. Ken King, with many leaders of our agency virtual that's here also to answer questions today. So I want to do a quick just summary before we jump into our budget slides about our agency. For those should know, our agency consists of three bureaus: our Administrative Bureau, our Recreation Bureau, and our Parks Bureau. We have over 15 different divisions within those three bureaus, well over 700 full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees. And we currently, just some of our amenities that I'll highlight is we have, as we all recently recall, Bochek Rec Center was reopened. That made our 50th Rec Center. We have over 262 parks in our current inventory, well over 25 plus miles of bikes and trails throughout our agency, 4,700 plus acres of parkland and green space, just to name, a few of our different assets. In addition, I want to just quickly go through and just thank our team over this last year, as just probably many agencies have experienced. We all had to reimagine and recreate ourselves during this pandemic, and our agency during the pandemic has served in many different capacities, from our rec teams serving well over 1.2 million meals throughout the year, as well as activating and partnering with our school system, with our student learning centers. But also last summer, we realized that as kids had been inside their homes, we wanted to make sure that we had some form of a summer camp. So we did create our Be More Summer Fun sites last summer, and we was able to open our swimming pools on a limited scale. Some of our upcoming summer highlights is we are still moving into this summer with some of our pools in limited capacity. Our opening of 11 this past weekend. Also for our summer camp, we are bringing back our Camp Baltimore site at many of our sites, but we're also keeping our Be More Summer Fun sites. But we're excited to offer our specialty sports camps And one that I want to highlight is the one that's going to be at Myers. It's the first time we've ever had a sport specialty camp at Myers, and that camp registration is going extremely well. Also during the summer, we've been experiencing a lot of virtual programs throughout this past year, but our STEAM program will be doing some more in-person programs during the summer with the big rollout this past fall with our STEAM education coordinator. Also, in 2019, we was able to introduce our Charm City Games event. As we know, we did not have it last year, but we will be bringing Charm City Games back this summer. And then we'll continue to renovate and improve our rec centers throughout the city. And then a couple additional highlights, and we'll jump right into the budget, is our agencies in year 2 of our Rec 2025 strategic plan. Our agency also is going through our current reaccreditation with our National Recreation and Parks Association. We had our visitors here 2 weeks ago, and that visit went extremely well. So with that, Councilman Costello, I'm going to jump into our first service, which is our 644 service, which is the administration of recreation and parks. That service encompasses most of the administrative functions of our agency, the director's office, our capital development engineering service, information technology, HR, our development and media services, risk and security, just to name a few. During this upcoming budget year, what we end up doing is we reclass some of our 4 of our general funded positions to better support our administrative team. And then also, this budget includes a $1.7 million state grant funded for the Public Open Space Fund, which we're excited to continue to expand our programming and opportunities throughout the agency. The next service is our Aquatics Service, and that is service number 645. As I stated earlier, our responsibilities, we have 6 large park pools. As we all know, one of our large park pools is under construction, and the second one is not going to operate this summer due to the renovation, not the renovation, but the construction of the new Middle Branch Fitness and Wellness facility. But to support the Cherry Hill pool site not opening, we're going to continue to operate our indoor Middle Branch indoor pool. Also, we have 13 neighborhood pools that we're responsible for, and we do have 3 indoor pools, and we're responsible for 2 splash pads, the one at North Hartford and Solo Gibbs. As we continue to move through our Rec 2025 plan, we're also looking at how we can continue to be more efficient. And one of the budget highlights is we was able to create a center leader position. That position is actually located at the new Cahill Fitness and Wellness facility. Our next service is our park maintenance service number 646, budget 17,701,170. This is the bureau that's our division that's responsible for maintaining our 4,600 plus acres of parkland throughout our city, and to include some of our larger parks like the Druid Hills, the Riversides, the Pattersons, but also some of our historic sites like Mount Vernon Place, neighborhood parks, also our playgrounds, basketball courts. And also, we're responsible for working and coordinating with our contractors with mowing our grass. One of the highlights here is that our agency, as we look at how we can become more efficient, one of the areas we noticed is that our facility maintenance was spread out between recreation as well as parks. And what we discovered is that you will have the park maintenance team that may go in and repair a park, that has a service request. However, that park may also have a rec center on that same property, but we have another division that will go in to deal with the facility maintenance of the rec center. So we moved that whole facility maintenance divisions, a newly created division, and we moved those 5 CDL job positions out of recreation and to the park bureau. Our next service, service number 647, is our youth and adult sports. This budget pretty much stayed to current level of service. We are back now with in-person athletic programs, as well as we've started back permitting our adult leagues in our green spaces. So I know the community is really excited to try to get back out and be a part of the different social leagues. But we're also excited to be able to offer some of our youth and adult programs in person as well. We're currently in the middle of our BNBL league. But we will move from BNBL to our Be More Night Hoops. So we are definitely back full force. But this division is also responsible for our indoor facility at Myers, our skateboard and track and field, basketball, football, just to name some of the facilities there. And again, just one of the big highlights here is that we are back open and active. Also, just a FYI, in our youth and adult sports, there's a mixture of revenue funding, not just from the general fund. Also, we receive revenue funds to help support this division. The next item is our community rec centers. Of course, is service number 648, 18,754,433. This is our largest division, and also is our division that has the largest budget. Some of our highlights here is the reopening of our rec centers. So we did reopen rec centers in April, and then we brought on our second group of rec centers in May. So mostly all of our rec centers are active and open as we get ready to go into the summer months. One of the big highlights, of course, we was able to reopen and or not reopen, but open our new fitness and wellness facility, Cahill facility, 35,000 square foot facility. We're also excited that our Miller Branch Fitness and Wellness facility is well on its way with a late spring, early summer opening for next year, and that will make our second fitness and wellness facility for our agency. And then also in the table games, there's $2.2 million that's there to help support our recreation program and the staffing. The next service is 649. It's our special facilities management and recreation. It is in this facility where this is where the Shake and Bake is located. This is where Carrie Murray, our Myers Pavilion, are located in this facility, as well as the Mill Branch Rowing Club. We, of course, just like our rec centers, reopened Shake and Bake 2 weeks ago, as well as we are in our final phases of renovations for our Mount Pleasant site so that we can have that facility ready to operate and open in the fall, which is one of our larger facilities within this division that's responsible for ICE, and it's located in the northeast west quadrant of Baltimore. Also, during this disruption, our team has continued to find other ways to program and working with our rec bureau during this time. The next bureau is our horticultural bureau. Is Bureau 650, 1,902,843. No changes to the service level itself, but this is the division that's responsible for our Sylvan Arboretum, as well as our Rollins Conservancy, as well as being responsible for our community gardens, as well as making sure the beautification of our plants throughout our city, as well as they maintain our 2 greenhouses to make sure that each year, as they change our plantings from season to season, that we have the proper plants in place and ready to be planted each year. One of the recommendations here, high budget, was the funding of an additional horticultural assistance position, which will help Melissa to continue to expand her operations, because in 2008 her operation was severely hit with budget cuts, and she had to reduce some of her services, and some of her services was moved over to our enterprise fund. So we're really excited to see another position being added back to that service. Our next service is our seniors. We're slowly reopening our centers for our seniors under the direction and guidance as we continue to work closely with our health department, Dr. Roz and her team. This is our service number 651, budget 532,260, and there's no major budget highlights at this point in time, because for the most part we've been doing a lot of, just a highlight here is we've been doing a lot of virtual programming during the pandemic, but we're really excited that our seniors are going to be able to come back into our facility so they can get back to some normalcy when it comes to senior programming. Our next service number is 652, which is therapeutic recreation. This is the division that's responsible for serving our community of our Special Olympic participants, but our therapeutic recreation division. And they're responsible for making sure that we provide programming for our youth and adults in our therapeutic recreation area. Each year they host well over 20,000 plus event participants at our Special Olympics. This facility is located at our Fair and Braywood Rec Center, but we're working closely with this team to try to continue to find ways that we can look at some additional locations to make it more centrally located throughout our city. The next group, the service number 653, is our park program and events. This is where our special events is housed out of. This is where our outdoor recreation is located. And this is where the new mounted police unit, the horse stables, this is where that budget is transferred along with the 3 positions. Our agency is excited to continue to work with BPD as we transition and come up with a strategy of how we build that program out over the next year. Also, we have a new outdoor rec coordinator, Jameson, who is looking at many different ways that we can expand our current outdoor recreation offerings, but continue to offer bikes and canoeing and kayaking, but also looking at other amenities and programs that we can offer to make sure that we're serving many of our different residents. This is an area where there was a high interest in a survey that we recently was able to review from our citizens that really talked about how we can engage more. And then also, as we know, as we're coming out of our pandemic, we've seen a significant increase in utilization of our green space. And so we want to make sure that this team is well outfitted and focused on making sure that we can support the many different demands that's going to be coming from our communities. And our final service unit is our urban forestry, service unit 654. This unit budget is $4,639,125. And one of the areas there, as they continue to look at ways that we can work towards our tree backlog and address things, one of the areas that they wanted to do is create an additional office support specialist to help focus on service requests and making sure that things are closed in a timely fashion. With that, Councilman Costello, that's a quick summary of our Rec and Parks budget.
Thank you, Director. If you could take the presentation down. Before we get started, to our City Council colleagues on the call, I'm going to ask that you all turn your cameras on unless you have a connectivity issue. Similarly to our city agency officials, I'm going to ask that you all turn your cameras on if you're on this call. Anyone from Rec and Park still on the call, please turn your camera on. Thank you. Moving forward, I'm going to ask that participants in these hearings keep their cameras on. We're all very, very committed. Everyone on this call is committed to Baltimore City and to improving it, and we all love our city. And there are actually people at home that are watching these hearings that are curious about all the great work that Rec and Parks is doing, about some of the challenges that the department is having and every other department in the city. And I think it's critically important that a little gesture that we can do on our part by turning on our cameras demonstrates to the public our commitment and our interest in what's being discussed today. So I want to thank everyone for cooperating with that and moving forward in that manner for the duration of the week. So thank you. Director Moore, thank you so much for the presentation. It's great to have you here with us today. I'm going to start off with Council President Nick Mosby. He may be wrapping up a meeting at the moment. I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Robert Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Moore, thank you for your support throughout the city, your staff. They've been wonderful. And My question is, one, before you do your closing for your BNBL, I'd like to bring Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas to close that out for us. I mean, he's looking forward to that. And second of all, can you explain about your senior programming throughout your rec centers? Because I think that's been something that a lot of the community don't know about, and I want to be able to get the correct information and what kind of programming you have throughout the rec centers that address some of the senior programming.
Thank you, Councilman Stokes, for that question. I'm gonna start and then I'm gonna turn it over to Kendra, who's can go into a little more detail. But what our current centers is ran, our senior program is ran by Leslie Yancey, and what we continue to do at Leslie is look at our current programs. We do have some senior programs that are operating out of some of our rec centers where we offer daily programs. But what we're also trying to do is expand those into areas where there is a void or there is no programming. Because as you know, some programming we run directly and some programming is ran through the health department. But Kendra, can you shed a little bit more light about the strategies and what we're doing with seniors as we bring the seniors back into the centers?
Thank you, Director Moore. Hello, Councilman Stokes. So as we are bringing seniors back, as Director Moore said, we're starting off with the Cherry Hill Senior Rec Center on June 1st. It's actually started this week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, providing services there from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. And then as we go into the summer a little more, we will be offering, the senior division will also offer meal pickup opportunities as we did last summer at various rec centers. I believe there's about 9 centers in which seniors will be able to pick up their meals. And then as we enter into the fall, we will go back into providing additional senior locations at the various centers. The senior division works closely with the rec centers to make sure that their golden age clubs are serviced in that time frame from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m.
Thank you. I just have one more question, and I know we've been talking to you and Lindsay about the rec councils, so I'm looking forward to that. Maybe if Lindsay have a little information you can share about how important rec councils are in rec centers, because you get an opportunity to meet the families and meet them where they are and talk about some of the other issues, not just the rec centers itself. And I'm looking forward to moving forward over at Cecil and Greenmount Rec and creating those rec councils where the rec centers are right around the corner from each other. So I don't know if Lindsay just kind of can give us an overview, because it's still in the planning stage. So I believe Lindsay Jackson is on here.
Yes, sir, Councilman Stokes. I'm gonna start now, pass over to Lindsay, but you're absolutely right. One of the things we want to make sure is that as we continue to create our programming and offerings for our community, we want to make sure that we're getting the feedback from the community. And what better way than to create rec councils? But our focus not only is just on adults. We want to make sure that we hear from our young people, our teenagers as well. And as you know as well, is that the agency have identified 9 young men and women who are serving on the rec council for the city as a whole. That is, I'm using their knowledge and conversations to make sure that when we look at program offerings, making sure that they're speaking on behalf of their teams and their colleagues, and so that we can offer programming that they're interested in, so that they can come into the center. So with that, Lindsay, you want to talk a little bit more about the work you're doing with the Cecil community?
Good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to follow up on what the director said about the rec councils, but also just back up a little bit. Something that the director did when he came to Baltimore was create a community engagement team. At that time, BCRP was the only agency without community liaisons and a community engagement team to really gather community feedback in the things that we do as an agency. So with doing that, a lot of you are aware with the friends groups that we have that are basically the community associations or the rec councils of the parks. But we wanted to revamp that as we look at programming for our rec centers and revamp what rec councils look like. So as the director stated, we are looking to have young people rep on the rec council, as well as community members and community stakeholders. So we're still in the planning stage of that. We're identifying which recs around the city would be in the pilot program. But once we get that rolling out, we think that that would be a great way to gather community feedback on programming and just things that's going on in and around the rec centers.
Thank you, Lindsay, but I think that pilot program should be Green Mountain Cecil Rec. Thank you very much.
Good, Councilman. I didn't need to hear much about that proposal because as soon as you said Isaiah Thomas, I knew you were talking about the team captain from the 1981 NCAA national champion Indiana Hoosiers, which is my favorite team in sports. So I was on board. But that was good to hear. Thank you, Councilman. I just had to take the liberty of saying that. We're going to jump to Councilman Glover.
Hello, Director Moore. Hello, Miss Moore, and our main man, Lindsay Jackson. You know, I just want to first of all thank you guys for always, I guess, being on point when it comes to us over here in District 13. I mean, we've been wearing you guys down, but you guys have always come up to the challenge, even when it comes to getting trash and things done. Picked up over in our parks. You know, congratulations to the 13th district for getting a new rec center up there in Bocheck Park. That was great, and I know the mayor said that he was going to go into phase 2 real soon. So I'm going to pressure you guys about that to make sure that we do make that happen. But my question is it a reason why right now, for the moment, that we don't have the basketball goals up over in the Butchers Hill community? That's by way of Washington and Fayette Street. I've been getting some phone calls from constituents asking why. I know at one point in time, we weren't able to get them up because I think they were doing some work over there and asbestos was in the area. But I do know now I've seen a lot of kids from Commodore John Rogers actually playing on the basketball court with no goals, but they're doing other sport activities over there. So my question is, do you have a date where we can get those basketball goals up? And we had a lot of great guys come out of that rec center, played ball on those goals, like Marcus Hatton, that played for St. John's and went over to the Clippers. You got Andre Poole. You got myself that was failing everybody over there, and I want to get back over there and start playing again. Just, you know, you guys know when you're going to get it back up and running.
Councilman Glover, thank you for that information. I'm gonna yield to you, Ed, and see. I didn't realize those goals were not back up, but Ed, can you talk a little bit about that, or make sure we come up with a strategy of how quick we can get those and let the councilman know? But Ed, you have any additional things to add on that?
Thank you, Director Moore. Thank you, Councilman Glover. I'm not sure about those rims. We will have to look into it, and we can get back with you, if not by the end of today, definitely by next week, with the status of when the goals will be replaced.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it. Other than that, you guys are doing a great job, and we look forward to work with you guys now and over the next couple of years. But again, Lindsay, thank you for always being there for us, brother. We greatly, greatly appreciate you over here in East Baltimore.
Thank you, Councilman. Director, I want to jump over to Service 645, Aquatics. I know that all of our community pools are scheduled to open this year, with the exception of Druid Hill Park, and of course that's because it's under a significant capital upgrade. Is that correct?
Also, the Cherry Hill facility Cherry Hill Pool and Splash will not open this year because of the construction of the fitness and wellness facility that's there on site.
That's right. That's right. That's a very exciting project. I know Councilwoman Porter is very excited about that. My question is regarding pool capacity. I know we had a chance to talk about this the evening before last. There's some pretty severe capacity limitations that have been put in place. And I took the liberty of calling the health department to make sure I understood why those limitations were in place before I called you to bother you about it. And I was told by the health department that there are no COVID-related capacity limitations in place, right? We know that Mayor Scott lifted virtually everything about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I'm hoping that you can talk through the challenge as you discussed it with me over the phone the other evening. And then I want to talk about some potential creative solutions. So if you could talk about that, please, Director.
Yes, sir. Councilman Costello, thank you for that. And you're absolutely right. We're currently, our capacities, we have 75 spaces that are available online, and then we save 25 spaces because we do understand some people don't have access to internet and computers, that we do a walk up where they can still register and have access. So our current capacity is 100, and that's for our larger park pools, and is 30 for our smaller neighborhood pools. And as I shared with you the other night, the big challenge is that there is not a health department restriction. It is a safety and wellness restriction by the agency due to the limited number of lifeguards that we currently have employed. As I shared with you the other night, it's not a budget issue. It is a national shortage. And some of the things that I'll just share with you and highlight is that even we talked the other night about the option of, is there an opportunity for outside contracting of lifeguards. A great deal of our contractors also depend on a foreign exchange program where they bring students over every year to utilize for lifeguarding. As we all may recall, is that the former president eliminated the Visa One, I think it was the Visa One program for exchange students, and they saw a significant decrease in being able to get exchange students. So even that has negatively impact our options for lifeguards. But I will tell you that our team continues to work daily to bring on more additional lifeguards. As we speak today, we have roughly about 35 lifeguards, additional lifeguards that are going through our hiring process and screening process to try to get them on as quick as we can. So where we have capacity numbers, we're going to continue to adjust those capacity numbers as we bring on more lifeguards. So we have not stopped recruiting. One of the additional areas is that we're going to try to work closely with BP, Baltimore City Public Schools, next year to get back into the schools and start introducing some additional learn to swim programs that can help us bring back maybe some of our junior lifeguard programs to continue to try to address this issue of the lifeguard shortage and try to get more lifeguards, so the restrictions won't be a factor. But it comes down to just the limited number of lifeguards we have right now.
Thank you, Director. I certainly appreciate the proactive steps we've taken, but I don't believe that I believe that there's more that we can do. What other creative ideas do you have for how we can ramp up lifeguard capacity? Because we need to get our kids in the water when it's 100 degrees out. We got to figure out how to make that happen and make these pools accessible to kids and to our families throughout the city.
Well, again, I will continue to work closely with our HR team and look at other strategies that we may have. But if we have in-house, our aquatics team has the capability of running lifeguard classes, and they're reaching out and they are trying to bring members in. If I'm not, I think last week we finished up a class where Nikki was able to train 5 or 6 additional lifeguards. So we're looking for additional lifeguards. We have the capabilities that we can run these lifeguard classes in-house, but what they're looking for is any kid that's interested or young adult that they have to at least be at a level 3 to swim. So you can't be just a beginner swimmer for the safety of yourself as well as our participants that come to our pool. So we are continuing to offer lifeguard classes. We're continuing to reach out to former lifeguards to try to encourage them, and our team also just FYI, is our HR team there was a job fair that MOED had with schools with rising seniors or seniors that was actually graduating, and we actually was in a part of that job fair and recruitment fair to try to encourage high school students who was graduating for the different mini opportunities. So we are trying to continue to move outside the box. We're not giving up on it. but we feel like I said, that we have about 35 additional lifeguards that are in our hiring process now, so that we will be able to increase capacity at our swimming pools. But it's definitely something that we have to continue to look at and continue to explore options, and to include, as some of these visa programs are reinstated, maybe we look at some contract opportunities as well. So.
Where are we at in terms of exploring external contracting opportunities to rebuild capacity?
We have not started that conversation. I will have some conversation with our teams, but we'll of course have to work closely with our procurement department to determine how we can secure contracts with any possible vendors if there's some availability. But I don't see Daryl Sutton on this call, but I will make sure that our aquatics teams at least explore that and follow up with you.
Can we have that conversation? What's today, Friday? Can we have a commitment that you'll start to have that conversation by no later than Monday, June 7th?
With our internal team to explore options, yeah, we can definitely start looking at exploring options to see what additional contract opportunities may be out there. And then we could have a conversation again with our procurement department, our finance department, to determine if there is some contractors that are available to bring on some of this. We need to look at liability, we need to look at risk, and so we can explore it, but I'm not sure if we'll have a final solution Monday, but we can at least start that conversation and we can keep you abreast of what's going on.
Greatly appreciated. And my understanding is you need 24 hours of training, both in person and or physical training and as well as online in order to be certified. Is that correct?
There's I don't want to misquote the full details of that training, but I do know that there's an online educational component, but then there is an in-person. I don't think it's an hour deal, but there's some rescue techniques that you have to pass, and there's a swimming minimum that you have to complete within a time to make sure that you're conditioned to be able to serve as a lifeguard. So there's a series of things that you have to do beyond just the educational component.
Have your folks developed any promotional materials to share on social media in terms of recruitment?
I have our HR chief on, so I'm gonna yield to her so she can at least let you know what all we've done to this point for recruitment. Dipti?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, we work hand in hand with our Marcom division to post and our Marcom and DHR to post and recruit for all our positions. As Director Moore said, we did a virtual job fair. We partnered with MOED and Baltimore City Public Schools for all our summer positions. We did our own virtual fair. We did an in-person job fair at Shake and Bake. So we've been trying to think outside the box to recruit for lifeguards.
I appreciate that. My question specifically was, have you developed any collateral or promotional materials for social media to help get the word out about these opportunities and the need?
I want to say yes. I'll follow up with the Marcom division, but I want to say yes, we do work hand in hand with Marcom to post all our positions, but we'll follow up and get back to you.
Okay, I haven't seen anything on social media. So can we get a commitment from Rec and Parks that by call of business on Monday, June 7th, that we will have promotional materials advertising the need as well as the opportunity?
Sure.
Is that a reasonable time frame? Okay, that's excellent. I appreciate it. Director, have we considered reaching out to Dan Heimowitz at the Office of Performance and Innovation to see if his analysts are available to provide any deep dive on your data or come up with any creative ideas for your consideration?
We haven't this year for lifeguards. We did last summer when we reopened our pools and we were trying to reimagine how we can open them safely. We did work closely with his team, but we have not reached out to his division this year for any kind of data or any kind of innovative strategies they may have. But I don't have a problem with definitely reaching out to his team as well to see if there's anything we're overlooking or if they have any creative ideas as well.
Can you commit to reaching out to Dan Heimowitz by call of business on Monday, June 7th, please?
We would do our best to, sir. I mean, us reaching out, but then we got to make sure he's available to have that conversation. But we can make the attempt to reach out to him to see if they're available to have those conversations.
I'm certain that Dan would be happy to have a conversation with you. So if you could please reach out. And then lastly, I believe everyone on this call who's on the city council would be more than happy to get the word out to our respective communities. But we're going to need some type of material to share online on social media with our email distribution list, to share with our community presidents, to share at their respective community meetings, to try and recruit members of the community to fill this need. Can the department commit to get something to the council that the council can share by no later than call of business Monday, June 7th?
As far as just marketing information about what the positions that we're hiring for and the needs for the summer. I mean, there's current postings, but Deputy, do we currently have just the flyers information, or is that something that we can create and have for council by Monday?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Yeah, I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but ideally I'd love to see a flyer that said, we need lifeguards so that we can keep our kids busy this summer, and we need community members to step up. And here's how you do it. That would be greatly appreciated. All right, thank you, colleagues. I appreciate you indulging me. I do have a second question. Director, this one centers around service. 1 second. Service 646, park maintenance, specifically grass mowing. If you could share with me a 1-minute summary of the evolution of the grass mowing contract. Just tell me where we had a previous contract expired. It was supposed to be reapproved by Board of Estimates on, I want to say, May 12th. My understanding, it was approved finally on June 2nd of this week. Where are we at?
You're correct. We have gotten an executed contract that's been approved at least by BOE, and now we're working with procurement. I did reach out to Ms. Brown on Wednesday, asking for we need a PO so that Lorenz can continue to cut our grass. She was going to expedite in getting that for us. Our team is going to meet with Lorenz on Ed. I'll yield to you to tell the councilman when we're going to meet, but our goal is to meet with Lorenz to talk about expectations and making sure as we bring on Lorenz for this next 3 years, what this contract entails. One of the positives here is that this contract will consist of 34 cuts, which is more cuts than we've had in the past, which will give us more capacity during the summer to cut up our grass every 7 days. When I first came into the agency, we was getting the grass cut every 14 days. So really and truly, you could not really see the significance. So really excited that we was able to add those additional cuts. But Ed, can you tell me exactly when you're scheduled to meet, or your plans to meet with Lorenz, who has been successfully selected to service all 6 of our clusters, but also serve quickly. I'll highlight we have a 7th cluster this year. Due to, again, as we continue to build our horticulture team, our horticulture team is responsible for all the flower beds throughout the city. In this new contract, there's a 7th one which deals with landscaping, so that they can help us with our floral beds as well.
Thank you, Director. Exciting. Deputy Director Wheeling, before you answer that, really appreciate the leadership and reducing the time from 14 to 7 days. That's wonderful. When you say 34 cuts, you mean 34 cuts per year per park, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, sir. Excellent.
So it's 34 cuts per. They're broken into the 6 clusters, so that means that there'll be 34 cuts per cluster. So yes, that's every park in the city.
Outstanding.
Okay.
Deputy Director.
Thank you, Director Moore, Councilman Costello. We currently have a meeting set up with Lorenz coming up June 7th at 10:30. The plan is to meet with Lorenz, and we're going to go over scheduling. We're going to go over the 34 mowing cycles that Director Moore just mentioned. We're going to go over inspections, our expectations, our standards that are in the contract, and just how we're going to go about daily business as far as inspections and invoicing.
Excellent. And Director, before Deputy Director got on, you mentioned something about procurement. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but was procurement a bottleneck in this, or are they now, or what's going on with that?
No, I mean, we work with through there was some the May 12th, we had to delay it due to some technicalities. Really don't want to go into greater details. We was able to work through that with procurement. And then now what happens is once the BOE approves and the executed contract is signed on by all parties of the BOE, then it goes back to we put in a requisition and then procurement converts that requisition into a PO. So that way, as Lorenz is cutting those 34 cuts, we're paying them off of that PO. So that is, Keisha's a commitment. I have not spoken to her today, but she was committed to, she understands the urgency and she was going to work with her team to make sure that we receive this PO in short order. And that's why we're going ahead and having this meeting with Lorenz so we can continue to keep the grass. The grass is relatively low throughout the city, so we want to keep it that way. Going forward.
So when's that? When is the first day that Lorenz is out there cutting our parks?
I will be able to let you know more, and I'll be more than happy to share with you. We're hoping Monday, but there again, I need to make sure that we get this PO executed with procurement so they can start. But they're ready to go because they've already started to work on previous contracts as well. So they don't want to get the grass back up. We don't want the grass to be up. So that's why we're trying to have this meeting quickly with them as well.
Excellent. And lastly, who's that person from procurement again?
Keisha Brown is who I'm talking to in the procurement office.
Nina or Natasha, can you get Keisha Brown on this WebEx within the next half an hour? Because I want to make sure that she understands the director's expectations. So that we can make sure that she's doing everything to put you in a place, director, to get our grass cut. So thank you. And I want to thank Deputy Director Wheeling. I've been blowing your inbox up with grass cutting, and Ron Rodisillo, and you too, Director Moore. Thank you for being responsive and doing your best with in-house resources. All right, we're going to go to Council President Mosby. Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I first just want to say thank you, Director Moore. I've been with you since you first started here in Baltimore City, and you coming in have stuck with your plan, your word, your everything has just been following through perfectly. I thank you for your dedication with CC Jackson. You're working on James D. Gross. I know that there's some wonderful updates coming on Tawanda. And you had mentioned the opening of the pools. Does that include the pool at Tawanda?
No, ma'am. This year Tawanda pool will not open.
Okay, just wanted that clarification. I to make sure. And then, of course, the aquatic centers are just, moving wonderfully. You, Leslie Yancey was working at the Zeta Center for seniors, and you kind of stole her away. And so you have a wonderful person there because she has history with helping and working with seniors, and she's on the Aging Commission with me as well. So she represents you well. You have just definitely stayed community focused, even though every rec center I know in this city is for everyone to visit, but they are community specific. You helped with the extended hours. I mean, there's so many things that you have increased to make our aging facilities just more enhanced, and definitely appreciate that. So my question, I guess, too, I want to do a follow-up with what the chairman mentioned about the lifeguards. So just keep in mind, too, that we have Mr. Michael Alexander that can maybe help you develop a lifeguard type apprenticeship program down the road for future, a future avenue for, because I think there was one at some point, maybe a long time ago. There's probably some specs in his office on that. So please contact Michael Alexander, and he can definitely help you with that. And just an update, I know that you are probably getting together a tree trimming apprenticeship. Can you just talk about that quickly?
And what I'm gonna do, Councilwoman, we do have one, and I'm gonna yield to Eric Deal because during
Okay.
COVID we had to delay that program because they couldn't
Okay.
physically be into the office. But Eric, can you talk a little bit about that apprenticeship program and where we are with restarting that program?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me through my mic okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, good. We're there, Councilwoman Middleton. We are there. We have 6 apprenticeship positions, 5 current, and actually we had the money in the budget to fill a position that was going to be a tree trimmer, and we said, no, let's go ahead and make it an apprentice. And I think Deepti Moda can speak more to that. So we have an active apprenticeship program. Once they go through their period of training, plus they get some industry-wide training as well, we certainly will have people that are highly skilled to either work for Baltimore as positions come open, or certainly they can transition into the private sector and make good money. So we are there. We have an apprenticeship program of 6 people total.
Do you have a starting pay lined up as an apprentice already?
We
Of what-
do. Deepti may be able to help me. I believe it's in the high 30s.
Okay.
Yep.
It's in the
Eric's
30,000.
absolutely right. Yep.
All right. Thanks, Deepti.
Okay, that sounds comparable with, I think, housing also has, I think it was 6 apprentice, and I think their starting was like 33, 34. So that's a good start for an apprentice that wants to move on with that as a career focus. And thank you for, I know that there's continued backlog with trying to get our trees and things in order, but thank you for what you do as well. That's all my questioning, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Dorsey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you getting me in early here so that I can come down there and vice chair for the evening session. I know couple years ago, there was a shift to incorporate stump removal in tree removal contracts, but I still have a fairly long list of very old, large stumps that require stump grinding in order to remove them. I sent that list over to Jenny several weeks ago. Don't know anything about when or if any of them is ever going to get removed. Is there money in this budget for standalone stump removal? And, how quickly can I expect to see, say, 20 throughout my district removed?
Councilman Dorsey, thank you for your question. I'm going to yield that question to Eric.
So we could use more resources to take care of our entire backlog of stumps, Councilman Dorsey. We attack stumps in 3 different ways. We are currently, per direction from the administration, quickly remove stumps from ongoing tree removals so that we don't have a longer backlog. So the marching orders, when we remove a tree, we remove the stump. If we can't do it right away, we try to get it within 30 days. Then we have stump removal that we do to ensure that we can do tree plantings and continue our Tree Baltimore program. So on occasion, we will prioritize some stumps for removal so we can completely plant a neighborhood out with trees. But then we also have, as you're referring to, a backlog and we address that backlog. We periodically go in and we assign stumps from it. I think we have close to 1,900 right now in that backlog, and we whittle away at it. So we go chronologically oldest service request to newest.
So how much of that backlog is going to get done within this budget? That's an average of 135 per council district. And so I guess I'm asking, how soon can I expect to see 20 removed from my district? If I only got 20 done in my district this year, it would be 7 years before the backlog of my district is done.
Well, unless we're doing something as a special act, we again go oldest to newest. And if your stumps are some of the older stumps that's been in the backlog, then we would certainly be doing those before we would do some stumps in other districts. We spend $300,000 to $500,000 a year for stump removal currently. It's a balancing act. To what point we need to take out trees. We have a backlog of quite a few trees and trees that need to be pruned. So in some cases, it's a tough decision. Are we going to go ahead and get that tree taken down, or are we going to remove that stump that's across the street?
Because plenty of these locations are ones where if we just got the stump removed, neighbors would plant trees through, that they could get free through the Tree Baltimore program, and it would be two birds with one stone.
I agree. It would be nice to do both. We currently plant it, and they could have it planted through a contractor also, where we plant large, big shade trees. Last year, this current fiscal year, rather, we planted 2,300. I think we're geared to plant 3,000 next year. And so I agree. If that stump was out, whether folks plant their own trees through Tree Baltimore or whether we come and plant the trees for them, we could get more trees planted.
I guess I'd like to get some clear understanding of how much of the backlog we expect to get through this year and how we are equitably ensuring, not just on the basis of some, decade-old 311 requests that, happen to have come in first come, first served, but how we are equitably doing that throughout the city and actually eating away at this backlog. Like I said, if I only got 20 done this year, that would probably be more than I got last year. As far as I know, I don't know. And at that rate, it would be, at least 7 years before the backlog was getting taken care of. My other question, so I'd like to make a clear request here to know how much of the backlog this budget allows to be done this year.
We will have that figure for you. We can get that.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Eric.
Sure.
The second question is the one that I was asking here last year and the year before that and the year before that. When am I going to see the Herring Run Trail fixed, as well as the basketball courts up at the North Hartford Playfield, which is now the only full court basketball court in my district and is no longer full court based on what I saw the last time I went there when one of the two rims was missing. I now have 0 full court basketball courts in my district, and I didn't get any help from Rec and Parks in trying to retain the 2 that I'm losing, that I've lost at Northwood Elementary because they belong to city schools, not Rec and Parks. I would have really liked to have gotten some help from Rec and Parks in advocating for recreation, but I didn't get that. So I'd like to know, when are we actually going to see the Herring Run Trail fixed? And what's up at North Hartford with these basketball courts?
Thank you, Councilman Dorsey, for that question. I would yield that question to Adam Boardman, who's our capital chief.
Yes, good afternoon. With regards to the Herring Run Trail, of course, we were able to stabilize the bank on the one side through emergency work there. I've gotten 2 quotes for the movement or realignment of the trail closer to Fire Hooper's Field. Those are the 2 vendors, concrete vendors available to us with the city. Procurement is now asking me to get a 3rd vendor. I'm not really sure how to do that, but I'm working through that with them. But the money is there and we're ready to go as soon as I can get a purchase order on that. With regards to North Hartford, we recently got a task approved to do what we're calling a visioning plan. We have an internal kickoff meeting with the consultant next week, and then shortly after that we'll begin our public meetings and outreach to basically quickly define what the priorities are. I imagine, as you say, the courts will probably rise to the top, and then we'll be able to tackle those. But we want to look at the larger context of the park and make sure.
I don't want to take up more time with this than we need to. I'm fully, I'm on the same page with you there about the bigger picture, the envisioning and all that. I want to know when the separate task of the conversion of the tennis courts into basketball courts is going to be done, because every conversation that we've had addresses that as a separate, isolated effort from the bigger picture effort that you're referring to. And when am I going to get the one basketball court restored into a full basketball court by having a rim put back up? And I'll make one other comment when the chair is off of his phone call.
Yeah, so I'll work with my colleagues about getting the rim installed. Again, I understand your feelings about the tennis court. We just want to confirm that with the larger community.
Okay, great, because that's news to me, because that's not at all the conversation we've ever had about this. And we were sitting here a year ago in this hearing talking about getting that done, because this is something that came up in the budget the year before that. For the record, Mr. Chair, we made a very concerted effort here last year to drive home the point that these Herring Run Trail replacements needed to happen in short order. And here we are a year later from last year's budget, and this purchase order still hasn't been made, or what, the work order still doesn't exist to get the Herring Run Trail fixed. And my records with Adam and with the department go back to the fall or late summer of 2018. We've had a trail that has sunken and fallen into a stream since then and still remains unrepaired.
Councilman, I appreciate that and recall that conversation. 1 second. I know that Keisha Brown is on the line to follow up on the grass cutting thing. We're going to get to her in a second, because I think this portion to what Councilman Dorsey is referring to might also be applicable to Ms. Brown. So Director/Adam, can you summarize for me in 2 or 3 sentences what the path forward would be to address Councilman Dorsey's concern?
I'll start, Adam, and you can pick up by all means. But Councilman Dorsey, I do hear your concerns about. But there again, we've had several conversations where we talked about having a visioning session with the community before we move forward, to make sure that the residents overall, they want to convert that tennis court into a basketball court. So if there's some miscommunication there, I'm not sure where that is, but we did speak about
There's a
that as well.
miscommunication there. It's definitely not on my part, Mr. Director.
Okay. All right. Hang on. Let's everyone.
And then
Hold on, Director.
Okay.
Let's everyone take a deep breath. Okay. Okay. Director.
Okay. And then the second piece.
Director, hang on.
Okay.
So the challenge, as I understand it, is you all have to check a box in terms of community outreach. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir. That was
Okay.
Our conversation.
Okay. All right. Councilman Dorsey, what's your understanding of it?
No, this is a conflation of 2 different projects and 2 completely separate conversations.
Okay. Let's bifurcate those 2 conversations right now. What's the first one?
2 years ago, the council had a budget agreement that there would be asphalt replacement at 1 basketball court in each council district. As a result of that conversation, the conversation came about that in lieu of that, the 2 completely derelict tennis courts that are completely unplayable and are very near 2 very good condition tennis courts that do not get played at all would be converted into basketball courts instead of tennis courts. I have been repeatedly.
Okay. Councilman, hold on.
Yep.
Just want you to frame the issue. Okay.
That's one part of it.
Okay, hold on. We said bifurcate, right? So one at a time. Director Moore, if my memory serves me correctly, because I'm the one who negotiated that deal on behalf of the council in fiscal year 2020. Councilman's recollection is correct. There was a $560,000 commitment from the administration at the time, and that each council member would get discretion to have 1 tennis or basketball court within their district resurfaced. I do also recall following up with your office after the fact, and that there was a special arrangement made for Councilman Dorsey in his district based on some mitigating circumstances, which he just explained with respect to the 2 tennis courts that are in good condition, 2 in bad, etc. So, Director, can you please respond to this one piece of the issue in terms of, and Councilman, what you're looking for again on these 2 tennis courts that are in bad condition is to be resurfaced as basketball courts, if I recall correctly, right?
That is correct.
Okay, Director, can you
And
please
I've been
comment?
told, that the
Hold on,
contract is coming.
Okay. So let's turn to the Director. So there was a commitment from Rec and Parks in the previous administration that 2 tennis courts would be converted to basketball courts. I recall that because I was in the room when we negotiated the deal. Director, please advise on the status of that specific effort, and then we'll get to your other issue, Councilman.
So Councilman Costello, I will yield to Adam, but I know that excuse me. I know there's been some courts that was resurfaced. I know there was a budget limitation there with that $560,000 allocation during that administration, and but I will yield to Adam so he can tell us where we are with this tennis court piece, and if that is his understanding that we're going to move forward with this tennis court piece without the community's conversation.
Thank you, Director. Adam?
Yeah, so I may be a little bit in the dark on that conversation. The resurfacing bundle that came out of the council did not really come through the Capitol office. Again, I'm looking at the larger picture. We have CIP funding to do some work up there. I need to get with my colleague Jenny and find out what is the status of that resurfacing of the court in question. If that scope is beyond the monetary amount allowed there, then we will make sure that it is wrapped into the larger capital project and move that up the priority list.
Thank you, Adam. So in terms of, and Council will get back to you for the second item in a minute. In terms of timing for that, so it sounds like you're going to go get with your folks and look into it. What's next steps? What can we expect next?
Councilman, go ahead.
Go ahead, Director Moore.
Yeah, I think Councilman Costello, our commitment would be is to speak with Jenny Morgan, who was managing this project, get a better understanding of the commitment for this project. The Councilman is correct that we do now have a contract with someone to start to redo our courts. That was delayed for a minute, but that's not a problem now, and we can follow up with a detailed plan and strategy in writing so that we can make sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay. Can we expect a detailed strategy in writing by 5 p.m. on Monday, June 7th? Is that reasonable?
I need to confirm. I know Ms. Morgan is on vacation. I need to confirm when she returns. So I wouldn't want to hold to that until I can have a conversation with her and she's back in the office. So I can check, and I'll be more than happy to follow up in the form of an email to you to let you know exactly when I can get you a confirmation of next steps and strategies.
Okay. What I'm going to say is that 3 weeks ago, Rec and Parks began construction on the North Tennis Park, northern tennis court, or 2 tennis courts, in the northern half of Solo Gibbs Park 3 weeks ago. That was part of the fiscal year 20 agreement. It took 23 months to get that started. So I'm sharing that I understand and appreciate my colleagues' frustration with the time that it has taken. There was a reasonable expectation that was communicated very clearly to the department at the time, and there was agreement from the department that these resurfacing efforts were going to occur before the end of the season, i.e. the season being, October or November, before it got too cold to pour asphalt. So I think there's a very significant frustration on the council's part, because we're not just talking about one council member. And we had negotiated in good faith. Again, I know this is not on Mayor Scott and his administration, although Mayor Scott at the time, as a council member from the 2nd District, was a party to these discussions. And I'm very confident that Mayor Scott, his recollection of our agreement would be consistent with mine here, although I don't want to put words in the mayor's mouth. But he was in the room with me and the council president at the time. So what I would appreciate would be something in writing by Monday, June 7th at 5 p.m. with a set of steps and a path forward for Councilman Dorsey to get this completed by within a reasonable time frame, meaning that there is ample time for people to enjoy that facility before winter comes this year. Director and Adam, do you feel like that's a reasonable expectation that we can jointly move forward with?
I believe so.
Okay, that's excellent. I really appreciate that. Councilman, let's go to your second issue.
As it regards the North Hartford site, as long as the department is not conflating what we just discussed with the larger site plan proposal and project, which, as an aside, I've been advocating for since 2014, and we've not seen any significant progress except for some money being set aside to, as you said, begin some planning and outreach work. I understand that the department understands the scope of that project, and we are on the same page about that, so long as it is not being conflated in any way with the work that must be done as just discussed.
Councilman, I want to one thing that I forgot on the previous thing. My understanding, again, from our agreement 2 years ago, is that there's not a necessity for community outreach on this specific item, just like there was not a necessity for community outreach on the Sharp Leadenhall specific item in Solo Gibbs Park. Is that our shared understanding?
That's my understanding.
Well, I want to hear, I know that's yours. I want to hear that from the director or Mr. Borman. Because a community outreach on this is going to unfortunately slow this process down. And while I understand community outreach is important, and Rec and Parks is very good at community outreach, you guys do a fantastic job. I want to give a shout out to Lindsay Jackson and the team there. You all do great work on that. We no longer have time for community outreach. We've got to follow through on our commitment to the council as part of that previous budget agreement.
Mr. Chair, on this issue, can we get the list of all this that was supposed to be agreed to, especially for the new people? Because we don't know whether, I mean, I know I've had 2 resurfacing. So.
I'll take, Councilwoman, I'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Mr. Borman or Director.
Councilman Costello, yes. What we would do is we'll work to get you this timeline that you're asking for on Friday. I mean, on Monday, June 7th by 5 p.m. I do understand your point that you don't want us to go back to the community that this was something, but I will yield that when this original conversation transpired, I want you to understand too that the agency was not part of that conversation. That was a negotiation between the two the council and the administration.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I would say that at the time, you were in the room for the second meeting, which we had in conference room 2 on the 2nd floor with Pete Hammond, who at the time was a deputy mayor in the Pugh administration. And I recognize that you were brought in late because we did have an initial conversation that was more political in nature related to the budget negotiations. So what I would say is I want to recognize that you're correct and that you weren't involved in the initial conversation, but I also feel that it's important to point out that you were involved in some capacity in conversations prior to that agreement being finalized during the council's final vote on 2nd and 3rd reader. Is that a fair Is that a fair assessment?
There again, I mean, I don't want to go back and forth on it.
Okay.
I just got to
That's fair.
recall that meeting, but I would definitely get you your ask and Councilman Dorsey's ask, and speak directly with our team who's been working this project and get you that information by close of business Monday.
Director, I deeply appreciate that. Adam?
Yeah, I combed through my files and was able to find Jenny's spreadsheet that we're all speaking of, and it appears that North Hartford does have a purchase order number associated with it. So looks like it's happening. We'll just have to get back to you on the schedule.
Adam, thank you so much. And if you could please send me a copy of that spreadsheet before the end of this hearing, that would be very helpful. Councilwoman Ramos, that'll address your question. Councilman Dorsey, let's get back to your second issue and get that one buttoned up.
My only other thing was, I mean, the Herring Run Trail.
Okay. Director, floor is
This is
yours.
a trail that fell apart in 2018.
Okay.
Councilman Costello, I'll yield that to Adam of what he's doing on that trail. I know he's been working on that Herring Run Trail, but Adam, where are we with that second part of that trail?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, these trails and their relationship to the stream corridors are a challenge. They require the Maryland Department of Environment. Sometimes they require the Army Corps of Engineers to get involved. So anytime we're working in and around the streams, it's a laborious review process. I'm not trying to make excuses here, but we decided, we went through all that. We made the stabilization on the one side, and now on this other location, it is my proposal that we forego all that and simply realign the trail to get further away from it and allow time for DPW to do some of their stream improvements in the near future. Having said that, yes,
If I could just save us some time, we understood that to be the plan a year ago, and it sounds to me like this is a procurement problem at this point, where you have two estimates, and somebody is telling you that you have to get a third estimate.
Councilman,
Right?
we
I'm just
gotta
reiterating what Adam said earlier.
Councilman, hang on. Let's wind it back a minute. So everybody take a deep breath. Okay, we're all on the same team here.
Yeah.
All right, go again, Councilman.
Adam, you said earlier, 10 minutes ago or so, that you already have two estimates, and somebody is telling you that you need to get a third estimate, and you have no idea where you're going to be able to get that estimate because you perhaps don't have a pre-qualified bidder in order to be able to provide you one. And so there's some structural impediment to being able to move forward, even though you have a plan and you have the money to do it. I don't know how to get past this impasse, but it doesn't sound like you are the problem at this point.
Yeah. One of the vendors was in poor standing, which took time to get them back on board to even get the second quote. And now I'm not really sure how to get a third quote when no one else is, has the capacity or skills to do the work. So I just need to get with purchasing office and figure this out.
So Adam, let's take a pause there. City Administrator Shorter, I want to recognize Chris Shorter. Thank you for being with us, and City Administrator, appreciate you getting Keisha Brown on the line. But before we go to the grass mowing thing, and I want to make sure we button up Councilman Dorsey's issue here. Keisha, are you or Ms. Brown, are you with us right now?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, I'm here.
Thank you so much for being with us on zero notice, ma'am. Really appreciate it. So Adam, let's go through that procurement issue again on your end. What do we need something from Ms. Brown's team?
Yeah, this basic question is, do I always need 3 quotes from city vendors, or can I just get quotes from the vendors that are pre-qualified for the line of work that I'm seeking?
Right. So I wish I could answer that question for you, but I would be negligent in doing that without having an opportunity to review the requisition. I'm not for sure if this is construction, professional services, or the amount of the quote. But in light of that, I'm happy to work with you directly in resolving the issue. It sounds like it has been ongoing. And I haven't been a part of that conversation, but I'm happy to help support Rex and Park.
Ms. Brown, thank you for that. I want to jump back to Adam. So is this professional services or is this construction? Sounds like construction to me, but I defer to you.
No, it's construction. We did the drawings and details in house. And
What's our cost on this one, Adam?
It's roughly $40,000. There's two quotes.
Nope, that's good. That's good. No, that's perfect. Keisha, so we got $40,000 in construction. What do you think?
So by resolution, the central procurement doesn't perform those procurements for construction and professional services?
So what does that mean? It resides within the department?
Basically, we don't advertise construction and professional services. The resolution defines how those contracts are constructed and executed.
Okay. Please help me understand here. So Adam, what does that mean?
I'm not entirely sure. When we need a roof fixed, we get quotes from all the roof vendors and send them through. It's the same situation here. These are concrete vendors. I thought it was a simple process, but perhaps I'm wrong.
Mr. Chair, if I can interject.
Please.
I've heard a number of things here. I don't want to put Ms. Brown in a situation where she's not giving good procurement advice and counsel. This probably should not be happening. I would prefer that we do this offline if possible. I also heard that DPW potentially has some construction happening, which might be a reason why the agency has decided to delay implementation. All that being said, there are a number of details here that we need to work through, and it would probably be best to do it in a setting where we are able to sort of, talk more transparently about the details operationally.
So, City Administrator, I'm certainly amenable to that approach, but before honoring that and closing out the conversation, I'd like to at least get some next steps so that we can ensure that we're making progress. Does that sound reasonable?
Sure.
Okay, so Adam's the point person from Rec and Parks, right? Tisha, is it you? Do we need someone from law? Is there someone else from your team?
I'm happy to participate, and whomever else we need to bring to the conversation.
So you will be capable of identifying the right people on the procurement side, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so let's do this. Adam, you have some documentation of this project, right? And whatnot. Okay. All right. Before the end of this hearing, can you please, I know I'm asking you to send a lot of emails here, so I do appreciate it. Can you send documentation of that over to Ms. Brown? So she's got something to work off of, and she's not, kind of taking a stab in the dark here. And then can we commit to Adam and Keisha having a initial phone conversation on Monday to determine next steps? And then I'd like to ask that the results of that conversation are transmitted to the council, specifically to me, with a copy to Councilman Dorsey, a copy to Matt Stegman in the council president's office, and a copy to Nina Themlis in the mayor's office. City administrator, did I cover everyone who should be on that? So it's going to be, the results will be transmitted to me, Dorsey, Stegman from CP Mosby's office, and Nina from your office. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. I did also hear, as I was calling in here, Adam referred to a DPW project that might be happening that could have impacted the implementation timeline. If that is the case, DPW should be involved as well. This is partially why I do not want to, that we maybe not want to do this in a public forum, because
absolutely, we're in agreement. We're in agreement, Mr. Administrator. I just want to identify the person from DPW, and then I'm confident we have next steps, and we'll handle it all offline from here. Okay.
Very good.
So Adam, just tell me about the DPW work real quick so we can identify the right person.
Yeah, so it's in their 5-year plan. I'm not sure exactly where it falls from today's date, but it's part of their stream corridor rehabilitation, having to do with stormwater management credits and all that.
Okay, so that's gonna be Kim Groves. So
Correct.
let's include Adam, when you send the information over to Keisha, why don't you copy Kim Groves from DPW, Marcia Collins from DPW, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound good? Mr. Administrator, you good with that path forward? Outstanding. Councilman Dorsey, you have anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I really appreciate your work to get this sorted out here. Just to make sure that the city administrator is clear about this, and what Adam was referring to is that the whole plan here is to move a trail farther away from the stream so that it doesn't in any way interfere with a future DPW project. The whole plan here is to mitigate the fact that we don't want and don't need DPW involved in the mix. Otherwise, it would be a much bigger project and a much bigger deal than what Adam is trying to execute right now.
I think that's very clear. I appreciate the clarification. But I also agree with the city administrator's point that DPW must be a part of the conversation. So we're good with the process moving forward.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Councilman Dorsey, I'm going to give you one more question because I know you've done two, but I know you're also driving into vice chair tonight. So do you have anything else?
I don't have anything else. I want to say thank
Perfect.
you on the Friends group work that we've been doing with Rec and Parks lately. So thank you so much. I'll see you shortly. Thank you. And I thank you everybody for bearing with us on that. I know this took a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Moore, Adam, thank you very much for walking through that with us. I know that was painful, but I think we got the right result, and we can all walk away with an item checked off, or in the process of being checked off the list. All right, we're going to go to Council President Mosby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, we've had a chance to talk a lot, and I know we have a meeting scheduled to kind of go over some of the next steps associated with Rec and Park and the facilities. One thing I wanted to bring up today is, typically over the past couple decades, Rec and Park, particularly the rec centers, have been kind of targeted towards our younger children and not really, developing real alternative programming for our older children, teenage types. That we still need the recs to be safe havens, still need to be opportunities in which they can kind of see themselves participating in activities other than sports. Wondering, and I know we've talked about this a couple of times, the plan around esports, the plan around other alternative solutions in rec centers. I know your team has been working aggressively and looking at those things. Have there been any major developments on that front?
Council President, thank you for that question. And yes, we are continuing to discuss how we can design and develop the first esports facility in one of our rec centers. We have not finalized that, but we are working closely with some colleagues to finalize that strategy with the plans of hoping to have that in place by fall. But I'm also ask Kendra Moore, and that's here for recreation, to talk a little bit about what we're doing to focus on our teenage population for the summer, as well as how we're going to look at programming for them going forward.
Thank you, Director Moore. So as we'll be offering our summer program, which goes to age 12, but in our evening program, we're looking to offer more opportunities for our older youth, as well as we've been in discussion with a few community members as into how they could help us with that. Our next steps is to pretty much kind of formalize what does that look like for community members to assist us with that. And I know that just in discussion internally on really working with our youth council, in which Director Moore mentioned earlier, on how to garner ideas on what we could offer at the various rec centers for our teenagers.
And one thing I want to add, Council President, is we're also looking at reimagining our spaces. One of our areas we want to create these teen spaces in all of our different facilities. And so in order to do that, we want to make sure we engage the teens and get our centers working closer with some of our teens to develop and design that, because we all know if we allow them to create that space, then they're going to be more interested in participating and being a part of some of that activity, as well as being a part of that teen space that we're creating in these different rec centers. And
No,
that's
yes.
beyond just programming.
Now, is the funding for that, is that factored into this budget, or this is just going to be the planning phase of it?
No, it's going to be it's factored into this budget because we do have some funding in our table games, as I mentioned earlier. So we'll use some of our table games funding to develop this teen space and these team lounges. Some of our rec centers is bigger than others. Some spaces will be more so in the lobby, where some additional larger spaces we will have a defined room. So, but it is part of that longer budget for our table games funding.
Understood. Back to the esports type of initiative. I assume that your new youth commission is part of the helping of planning that out, helping selecting the location and everything. Is that accurate, or how is that working?
Well, what we've been doing is we've had some conversation with some outside partners that are interested in collaborating in funding this esports. So we've looked at 3 or 4 different sites in the agency right now that we can we have a room to implement this program, but we will also share those sites with our team council before anything is finalized and get their feedback and make sure that we're not missing anything, or if there's a gap somewhere that we may need to reconsider one of our sites.
Got you. And I know we talked about this, but just wanted to also highlight it. I think it was a great idea with, and I'm not sure, is it youth commission or youth committee? What is it called?
Yes, it's youth commission. Yes.
Yeah, but I know we've talked about this in the past, but for the next round, just really trying to develop a way to diversify it, to get children from all different parts of the city, all different schools in the city. A school that I constantly talk bad about has a lot of representation in that body, just as a joke. But really just trying to get young folks from all around the city, because I think that's going to ultimately provide access and opportunity and growth for young folks who feel completely disconnected from the Recs and Parks portfolio, to get their experiences, their knowledge, their cultural connectivity also factored into the development of these new spaces, so we can, so from a cost-effective perspective, we're getting our biggest bang for our buck. And again, it's really going after our young folks who feel completely disengaged from the Recs and Park portfolio. So that's the only other thing. Last question or round of questions is, in Hanlon Park, I know that there's coming up in the council a franchise agreement for Baltimore Gas and Electric, a 40-foot by 100-foot gas facility that I think's been picking up. Nothing that we have to really go in detail about right now, but definitely would love to have the opportunity to sit down and talk to you prior to the hearing to better understand the need, and particularly choosing that park. And the community has had a lot of concerns to date regarding it.
Yes, I would love to have that conversation offline, but we'll be more than happy to do it. But I think we have a meeting scheduled that's coming up, and we can probably discuss that in that meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilman Schleifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions, but I do want to thank Director Moore for your efforts. And the reason I don't have any questions tonight is because you and your team, Adam and Jenny, have been very responsive in answering my questions prior to today. And so I thank you for that. And I thank you for the work that you guys are doing. I won't ask my famous question this year about when the 5th district's getting a rec center. I'll leave that alone. But just thank you to you and everybody at Rec and Parks for all that you guys are doing through the pandemic and what you guys continue to do.
Thank you, sir.
And Councilman Schleifer, I would certainly encourage you, I know this has been a ongoing issue for you. I would certainly encourage you to have a conversation with Director Ryer at the Department of Planning. If you have not already, if you have, I apologize, to talk about opportunities to get programmed in the capital budget in future years.
I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, colleagues, and good to see you, Director Moore. The question I had, wanted to bring it back to forestry / park maintenance with service 654. And maybe this is more of a formal request, but just wanted to see if we could get a breakout of how much of that the budget is actually for maintenance and removal, and sort of parse that out. So
You're talking about the urban forestry budget?
yeah, service 654, page 328.
Yeah, we could definitely work on that and get that information over to you. The breakout in expenditures for the number of trees that's removed each year, the maintenance of those trees, towards our tree pruning program that we also implemented, and what is our strategy as far as this upcoming budget year, what areas, what districts we're going to be in this year. So I can get that over to you.
Yeah, that would be helpful, because it seems like we're in a perpetual backlog, and so it's clearly, and I know that
I think we lost Councilman Burnett. I'm going to give him, is that just me, or we lost Councilman Burnett, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure I wasn't seeing things. It's been a long week. And give him a couple seconds. All right, we're gonna come back to Councilman Burnett when he's available, so he will be the next council member to ask a question as soon as he's available. One last time, Councilman Burnett, you there?
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah, my internet's been spotty. Am I still coming through?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
They're always spinning on my screen. Okay, all right. Yeah, that there seems to be sort of a perpetual backlog year to year. And my concern is, obviously I'm very much pro planting more trees, growing the tree canopy. The concern that a number of my constituents have raised is obviously there's a sort of a dual frustration of seeing new trees being planted and also raising concerns about maintenance of the trees that are already there, and just wanted to, figure out, where we can better advocate or really ensure that the budget actually reflects the actual need that the agency and the city has, to be able to, whether those are tree removal, dead tree removals, or pruning, just kind of want to be able to see, like, where, how much do you have, and then if there is an analysis of how much you actually need, then, making sure that we as a council, as a body, are making that ask and advocating, so that we can kind of dig out of this, the seemingly sort of perpetual hole that the forestry division is in, as it relates to tree removal, tree maintenance. And I represent a part of the city that does have a pretty robust tree canopy, so it's something that is talked about a lot in my district.
So yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go for it.
Yes, sir. That is definitely some information that we can be more than happy to provide to you. And we have been in conversation with our team over at BBMR also about some of this backlog and how we can maybe address this. And they're willing to also look at this and see what other opportunities we may be able to utilize, some additional other funding. We do have the ARPA funding, is that a possible proposal? Is there a good fit there? So we're going to try to definitely look at different ways that we can explore to address this backlog and try to get us back in a positive position when it comes to the number of trees that need to be removed, the number of stumps that's been discussed as well.
Mr. Chair, can I get tagged on to that data request?
Yeah,
as
that
well?
was my only question. So you got, if Mr. Chair is good, that was everything else I wanted to ask has already been asked.
Councilman Conway, I'm gonna get to you in 1 second. Councilman Burnett, you just summarize that for me in 1 sentence here, please.
Wanted an analysis of how much they have for tree maintenance, whether that's pruning and removal. And if they do have an analysis of what the actual need is citywide to be able to address the backlog of tree maintenance.
All right, Councilman Conway, did he characterize that the way you wanted to?
Yes, that's right. So for pruning and dead tree removal.
Okay. Now, when we talk about dead tree removal, are we talking about removal of the tree, like cutting it at the base? Are we talking about grinding and removal of the stump, or are we talking about both?
I actually, that was a second part of my question. So of course, stumps, a major backlog as well. If we can include that, that certainly would be helpful. Councilman
Burnett, you amenable to that?
Good with it. I'm less concerned about the stumps as some others are, but I think including it all in that same pot of information will be helpful for all of us.
Okay, and Eric, great to see you as always, my friend. Do we have the three major categories there? Is that correct? We got pruning, we got dead tree removal, which means, cutting it a couple inches above the base, and we've got stump grinding and removal. Is that kind of three major categories of maintenance we're talking about here?
Right, and the funding comes through the city's tree maintenance contract, and of course we have an in-house staff that we devote to that as well. And we can provide that figure through Director Moore, showing a total, and I'll also show the total trees, removals, prunings, and stumps that are in our backlog. Absolutely.
Okay. One last thing, Burnett and Conway, do you want to include planting of new trees in there? So, okay, Burnett, that sounds good. Eric, we have that data.
And
Yes.
I'd like that in a map as well, if at all possible. Just of course, the number of trees you plan to plant, but then of course a map to show where we're doing the plantings. And
okay, I'm gonna attempt to summarize the request. And this is we want information on the backlog, on the number of trees that need to be pruned, the number of dead trees that need to be removed, the number of stumps that need to be grinded, and subsequently, key word here, subsequently, the number of trees that need to be planted. For example, if we had 10 trees that needed to be planted, but we also have an additional 5 stumps that need to be grinded, we in fact need 15 trees planted, correct? So did I characterize it? Conway?
I'll refine that a little bit. So we probably already know where we intend to plant trees for the next year. If we could have, of course, that number of trees and a map of the location for those trees, that'd be really helpful.
For the new plantings?
For new plantings, yes.
Okay. All right. So we've got information on the backlog, on the number of trees that need to be pruned, number 1. Number 2, the number of dead trees that need to be removed. Number 3, the number of stumps that need to be grinded and removed, as well as the number of trees that need to be planted. And if possible, I have that data on number of trees that need to be planted mapped out. Conway and Burnett, you good with that? Eric, is that possible in your estimation?
Yes, it is. I don't want to promise close the business today, but I have a lot of that information already. Can I add a quick clarification? When we're talking about tree removals, tree prunings, stumps, we're talking about our service requests. I can quickly provide that. This is SRs, right? What we're talking about?
Yes, that's correct. SRs.
Okay, sure.
Okay, real additional clarification. Are we just talking SRs, or if we have one of our community groups that is a little more advanced in terms of tree maintenance, has a list And let's say there's 20 things on that list, but they haven't filed SRs, but Forestry does have that list. Conway and Burnett, do we want that information included?
Yes, I'd want that included separately. So we understand maybe it hasn't been included in the total SR count.
Perfect. Burnett, you good with that?
Yeah, I'm never
Okay.
gonna turn that in.
Nina, are you good with the request? What number? 40? 48. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. Okay. All right. Okay, great. All right, Councilman Burnett, are you good? Outstanding. We're going to move to Councilman Conway, and then after that, we're going to go to Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, I'll stay on this briefly. We've actually tackled much of the questions that I had around forestry. Curious, Mr. Deal, do we have a stump grinder? And if not, why not?
We have 4 stump grinders. We have 2 in-house. When staff is available, or they're not out doing emergency work and other things, we man those 2. And then we also have a contract where we can have a contractor bring in 2 stump grinders through the private sector.
Good to know. Thank you. That'll, of course, help in understanding what logistics will look like on attacking that backlog.
Sure.
My next question actually goes back to Park Maintenance Service 646. So the service is being reduced by $1 million. Director, can you give me a little insight on how that affects the service and operations? We can start there.
And let me pull that service up to see exactly where that reduction is. So the reduction is in the special fund. I have my CFO here. I'm gonna ask him to explain that reduction as far as that reduction of the $1.4 million in the special fund. Ken, what is that? That signifies that just there for grant purposes? Is that the POS funding? Like, so you need to come off mute. Because I want him to explain that, because there's these special line items, because some years we get additional grant funding, and so there's money that's allocated that's projected for the year, and so that way we won't have to go back to BOE. It's already in the adopted budget. So when we go into and look at these special funds, if we don't feel that we're going to have some major grants that's going to come in and support us, then we reduce that number to be a little bit more closer to where we think we may get money this year. But am I missing anything in that, Mr. King? Okay. All right, he's on mute, but he's saying he's here with me. He's saying that explanation is correct, but it's not impacting our current operations. This is additional initiatives, different additional grants that we may go after for various projects during the year.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I also notice in the same service that one of the performance measures, the number of city-maintained park playgrounds. Historically, that target has been 120 playgrounds that we maintain. For some reason, we've reduced that to 112 in 2022. What playgrounds are we going to stop maintaining, or is there any reason why we reduce that goal?
That question I will have to talk to my playground coordinator, and I can definitely get your response. I don't want to give you the wrong answer there, so I will make a note and get your response to why we reduced that number by looks like 8 playgrounds.
Councilman, do me a favor, summarize that for me in 1 sentence. That request.
I'd like to know why we reduced the target for the number of city-maintained park playgrounds from 120 playgrounds to 112 for fiscal year 2022, and which are those 8 playgrounds that we're not going to maintain into the future.
Thank you. Nina, that's 49. Thank you. Councilman Conway, you good?
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Director Moore and the team. I saw what I was going to go where Councilman Conway was going. That looked like a typo to me. I don't know why you would not maintain the same number of playgrounds every year, but if there is that list, then I'd be interested in that as well. And in that, you also don't have a target for the number of playgrounds with 100% functional components. And now I know we also got money from the state to improve our playground significantly. So I'm assuming you're going to change those outcomes.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Yes, ma'am. We have a strategy and a target right now where we're working with our playground coordinator to address more playgrounds than we've maintained and improved in the past. On average, we've had funding for 2 or 3 playgrounds. I don't want to share that number right now until we get the confirmation of the total number of dollars, but there's a strategy to improve significantly some of our more older playgrounds that need to be replaced.
Right. I thought my delegate, Madam Chair, McIntosh, was very clear that she got more funding for playgrounds. So if we can have that strategy as well, that'd be great. I think you're working with each of us on our preferences at the moment, so maybe that'll come later on.
Councilwoman, do me a favor, go back, summarize that in 1 sentence.
It is my understanding that the state gave us significant amount of money for improvement and additional playgrounds, and I'd like to know the strategy for that. And it doesn't have to be a rush because I think he's working with each of us on our preferences at the moment, but at some point.
Okay. Nina, that's 50. Thank you, Councilwoman. Back to you, Councilwoman.
Thank you. My next question, I have 2 more questions. I know we're running out of time, but if I can.
We're gonna go until this one finishes. So ask 1 question and we'll circle back to you, ma'am.
Okay, I appreciate that. Director Moore, I don't see in the budget, and maybe it's under park maintenance, for our park rangers. The reason I'm asking about park rangers, obviously it's great to have. I don't have any park rangers in any of my parks. I think it would be great to try to get that number up so that we have rangers in our parks. I have a significant unleashed dog biting problem. I need to work with the health department and with the animal control about this, but I do think having a ranger around saying, hey, put your dog on a leash, is going to be helpful. So can you tell us what you need to be able to increase the park rangers in the area?
So Director, hang on, before you answer that, where in the book, what service area is park rangers under?
Park rangers are under it should be under 651? Which service is park
650, no, 646 park maintenance.
653.
Yeah, 53, yeah.
All right, hang on. Let's bear with me. 653. Okay, I'm on page 325 in volume 2. It's 327. Which position is CFO? Yeah.
It's under activities, number 02 under activities. And you've only got it doesn't say how many, but you've got, a budget for it.
So cancel.
What's it? You go, you're on mute. Yep. That's all right. It happens.
So the funding for rangers, even though they're under the park program and events, in the past, a lot of the ranger funding has been paid through the special revenue fund from special events. What we have done is move that funding over to our 646, which is and fund that and budget that out of our program open space. But Councilwoman, if you recall, we've had a conversation. We're we're in the process of reimagining our overall ranger program. And in the immediate future, we are moving towards park ambassadors to be more customer front facing and oriented as we determine the future, how we move the ranger program forward. So currently the agency do not have any rangers on staff, but we're hiring park ambassadors to serve in our parks this summer. Thank you.
And what's the difference between an ambassador and a ranger?
The ambassadors are customer service oriented individuals. They're there to support and service our constituents in the parks. And the reason that we're here is because there was some misconceptions about rangers enforcement. And what we want to do is reimagine and make sure that rangers are doing the jobs that they should be doing and not been perceived to be more enforcement when they don't really have that enforcement mechanism. I know I've been in extended conversations with you as well as Councilman Cohen about the whole off-dog leash. I think I agree that is an issue, but that we need to address. But even rangers, when we did serve rangers, we had to, in order to be efficient and effective, it was more of an initiative where we had BPD as well as animal control when we would go out into these different parks, because we saw that even off-leash dog owners, if they saw a ranger or even police coming, they would, of course, put that dog back on a leash, but as soon as they leave, they're taking them back off. And so we're wanting to work to figure out what's the most efficient and effective way of addressing this long term, and also to figure out what's the best way of moving forward the ranger strategy, the ranger program. So.
Yeah, I agree. I probably conflated the two, and I appreciate you breaking that out for me, because you and I have had conversations about this dog issue. I've had conversations with the animal control people about the dog issue. I'm starting conversations with my colleagues who all have parks that we have to deal with this dog issue. It's the dog issue at this point that is very frustrating. So I look forward to continuing that conversation, but also keep us posted on the conversation around the rangers and the ambassadors, because if they're ambassadors for like customer service, they can't wear like uniforms like a ranger. So otherwise it's going to look like they have some sort of enforcement. But anyway, I'm interested to hear more about, how that works, later on. But yeah, I conflated the two just to squeeze in a couple questions at the same time. But I think that it's important. The dog issue is really important as well. So I'll save my last question for next round. Thanks a lot, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I know we were rejoined by Councilman Stokes and Councilman Glover, who had a budget-related meeting, so that's why they had to step out with the comptroller. I'm going to jump over to Councilman Glover first. Councilman. Councilman Glover, you there? All right, we're going to jump. Oh, Mr. Administrator. All right, give me 1 second, Councilman Stokes. Mr. Administrator Keisha, I want to sincerely apologize. I lost track of the procurement related issue around the grass mowing so that we can get Ms. Brown out of here. So Ms. Brown, I'm very sorry about that. Can we go back to the grass mowing contract? Director Moore, you indicated that there were a couple steps related to the procurement piece in order to get Lorenz out there and mow grass, specifically around a requisition and a purchase order. Can you explain kind of publicly so Ms. Brown can hear what you need on your end, and then we'll just make sure Ms. Brown is good to help deliver?
Yeah, as I stated, Councilman Costello, is that I had spoken to Ms. Brown, and she was going to look to make sure that she has everything she needs so that she can execute a PO. So that we can continue the cutting of the mowing with Lorenz. So that's kind of Ms. Brown, what I shared with him, that we had a conversation once the BOE did approve. I know we was waiting on an executed contract from the BOE's approval as well.
Yes, that is correct. It was the award was accepted this past Wednesday, board, and we can expedite that purchase order for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're good there?
Yeah, yes. Yes, Councilman.
All right. Keisha, really appreciate you being with us here again on short notice. Please have a good evening and a good weekend and get out of here. Thank you so much, man. All right, we're going to jump over to Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just not a question, just to Mr. Moore. The swimming pool on Baltimore and is that Central Avenue, is that going to be repaired also? Because I know you said 2 of them would not be open, and I think that's one of them. Am I correct?
Central and Baltimore.
Baltimore and Central, or Caroline and Baltimore, right there off between Broadway and Caroline Street, but actually on Baltimore Street, near City Springs.
So is that the
Elementary
City
school.
Springs? Is that a City Springs pool?
I guess that's what you would call it, yeah.
Yes, sir. Adam, can you confirm, but isn't City Springs one of the ones that we're redesigning now to go into construction this fall? City Springs is part, I'm sorry, let me stand corrected, Councilman. City Springs is one of the pools that needs renovation, but it is part of the bigger discussion of the master plan of the City Springs
TSO.
Park. Yes.
Okay.
Well, but we do have in this upcoming capital budget, we did request funding for the City Springs Park, which is $3 billion, which will include that swimming pool. So the answer is yes, it will be renovated.
My other question is, first of all, I want to thank Rec and Parks because the Oliver Pool was closed 11 years before I came on the council. And last year and a half, we opened that back up after 11 years. So we talked about the funding for the bathrooms. You did the roof on the outside, but the showers and the bathroom need to be redone. And I know you couldn't do that this summer because if you did, the pool wouldn't be open. So is that still on the radar to be the bathrooms to be renovated also, so we can take out the portable bathroom that's there?
Yes, sir. We're hoping that this year now, this fall we'll be able to move that bathhouse up the list so that we can, like I said, we repaired the roof because we had to stop the leaking first, right?
Right.
So we want to continue to protect the integrity of the building. So the next step is to focus on that this fall. So the next pool season, that bathhouse will be back fully functioning, and we can remove the porta potty there.
And one more, city administrator Shorter, I have 5 swimming pools in my district, 3 outside and 2 inside. I'm very fortunate. And I've been talking to Mr. Moore for almost a year and a half because we are in the process of tearing down the old Madison Square School, not the rec center. And we want to look at making that maybe a pool built for competition. We can create our own competition within Baltimore City when you got 3 outdoor pools and 2 indoor pools, and one of them is Chick Webb and the other is Dunbar High School. So I wanted to kind of keep that on the radar. I know Mr. Moore been talking about it, but I'm glad we have the city administrator there because that's something that we really can see happen here in the city and making sure that we utilize them pools, but we create that our own competition within the Baltimore city limits. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Councilman. And Director, I want to thank you. 26 minutes ago, your team sent out a tweet advertising lifeguards. So I really appreciate the sense of urgency and understanding where we're coming from on it. I really appreciate that. And that's from dealing with you over the past couple of years. I'm not surprised by that level of responsiveness. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back from the top. We've gotten through every council member's had an opportunity to ask questions. Is there anyone who has not? Did we get Councilwoman Porter yet? All right, let's start from the top. Council Vice President Middleton.
Just one last question on the pool. I know that Liberty Elementary, the playground is going to have some extension renovation, which is near the pool, and just want to make sure that pool is going to be open for that area. That's at the Liberty pool.
Kendra, can you confirm? But I do. Kendra, first before I respond, can you confirm it? Isn't Liberty one of the neighborhood pools that will be functioning this summer?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so Councilwoman, I have been in conversation with parks and people who are kind of leading that initiative on that playground, and they clearly understand that we have to come up with a clear strategy and plan not to block that pool from usage, and so
Okay.
we are working with them on a plan.
Thank you. There were some listeners from that area that was, so you answered their question. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's it.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Councilman Burnett.
I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My next question has to do with Service 647, Youth and Adult Sports. So the target for youth and adult sports programming, the participant drops from 13,000 in 2020 to 5,000 for our target. Are we cutting any programming there, or is there any reason why we're reducing that target?
We're not cutting programs, sir, but last year when, of course, we was in the middle of the pandemic, so what we're seeing is we're bringing programming back on. The numbers are not, people are slowly starting to register more and feel more comfortable. So that number was adjusted not to reduce programming, but just to be more realistic as we come out of the pandemic, to kind of better gauge where we are.
Got it. And I see a similar cut for Service 648, Community Rec Centers. The target for number of individuals over 18 enrolled in rec programming drops from 12 to 8,000. Same sort of deal there.
Same scenario, yes, sir.
Okay, and then I noticed that there are a bunch of rec centers. I can rattle them off if you'd like me to, but I'm not. I'd rather not. It's a pretty lengthy list. That these rec centers are seeing reductions in their budgets. Why those rec centers? How do we think about that? And can you give me a little bit of insight of how we think about those reductions to those rec centers?
What I would have to do is to look in greater details of which particular centers you're talking about, so I can give you, because it could be various scenarios, different reasons why. But what we're also focused on is we have the 2.2 million that we have in our table gains funding, and what I'm asking our team to do is be more strategic about how we allocate that funding to support rec centers more in the programming lineups and some other areas. So that could be a possibility, but if you would be more than happy to share that list, or I can go through this and give you a more detail of what's happening in each rec center versus just giving you a generic response.
Would you like me to read off the list, or I can shoot it to you in an email, or however you prefer? It's a pretty lengthy list.
I can go through and I'll respond to you. I'll get your response on the justifications of the reduction of rec centers budgets and where that strategy of where we will fund those areas. But I can assure you, we're not reducing or cutting any programs in our rec facilities. We're not reducing hours of operations or anything of that sort.
Okay, very good to know. Thank you, Director, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll shoot you an email, Director Moore.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Moore, my predecessor passed her very last bill, which was to ban certain pesticides from use in how we do business in the city. And I'm wondering, I think it's not enacted for another year, but I was wondering, and she was also wondering how it's going to get ready for that.
Well, as Director Willen, I'll yield to him for any follow-up I've missed. But since we're new, we're in the process of this new contract with Lorenz, and that's why they're having this meeting on Monday to talk about all the different strategies, make sure they understand what's the expectations of this bill, as well as quality assurance and making sure that the properties are properly manicured and cut. That is another part of their discussion with them, is to start talking about what is that strategy to make sure that we move away from certain pesticides that we can no longer use. Because I know some of the biggest challenges has been in the past, landscapers have sprayed around trees and fence lines, and as part of this new direction, there's certain chemicals they cannot use. So Ed, is there anything I'm missing there? But I do know that's going to be part of the in-depth conversation on Monday, what the new maintenance contract as we prepare for this new legislation to take effect next fiscal year?
No, the only thing, thank you, Director Moore. The only thing that I would add is that we have stopped using it in-house for turf management and spraying at playgrounds. So we are not doing it at all in those areas. But we're going to meet with Lorenz, like Director Moore was saying, on Monday to make sure that going forward, we are not using those chemicals, that we're using alternatives, methods to that. And we're going to plan on going in that direction in the future.
And you'll also have some sort of enforcement mechanism as well. Obviously, for the city contract, and they're saying you can't use the pesticides, and you know they'll be held to it. And I think it's the health department that has to do the enforcement side. But you know, I'm glad that you're moving that forward, and I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? Okay, we're almost done. I got a couple quick questions, but I need 1 second, so bear with me. I'll be back in 1 minute. Director and team, my sincere apologies. We have Ra on the line, right?
Yes, he should be here. I mean,
Yes.
Ra,
yes, he's here.
how are we doing with on our special facilities reopening, specifically Shake and Bake in Upton?
Shake and Bake is open, sir. We had our first opening on the 28th. We were doing soft openings and allowing our staff to get acclimated with the demand of Shake and Bake to the public. We feel very good moving forward, and we're looking to start hosting larger events, hopefully bigger than 20 groups of 20, hopefully in July. So
Excellent.
right now we're doing open sessions. Yes, sir.
As someone who can't bowl to save their life, but also threw the first strike in that facility, I'm very excited about getting out there with the community. So Director
Okay.
Moore was a witness to that. Director Moore, want to thank you for all your efforts on Shake and Bake, and I know we're gonna have some good news coming on regrading at Robert C. Marshall this year, correct? In Upton.
Yes, yes, sir.
I know my folks in Upton are going to be deeply appreciative and very grateful, as I am. Ra, I want to thank you for all your work on our special facilities. Want to thank Director Wheeling and his team. Want to thank Eric Deal, who him and his team, Jamila, Charlie Murphy, the list goes on. But these are some of the hardest working folks who have a job that, like, most of the stuff we deal with is political, but I don't think there's anyone in the room that disagrees with planting a tree. And this is the guy that deals with it, and he's got a backlog from here to the county line. So, you know, I just encourage the administration, as I do every year, whatever we can do to help Eric Deal and his team in the Forestry Division is greatly appreciated. Adam, want to thank you in the Capital Division. Everything that you've been doing there. I know you've been working around the clock on projects in my district and frankly in every district in the city. So it's greatly appreciated. I'm so excited about some of the new stuff we got coming down the pike, like in Cherry Hill, in Middle Branch. It's just really some really groundbreaking stuff, and it's really exciting for our communities. And specifically you, Director Moore, I want to thank you for your continued partnership, for always being responsive. I know when I call you, I'm getting a call back within an hour. And I can't say that for everyone, but I deeply appreciate it. I want you to know you're appreciated. So thank you all. We're going to go into recess. We're due to come back at 6 p.m. But I think we're going to be a little late for city schools. It might be closer to about 6:15 or 6:30. But we'll be back for city schools, and that's the last one this evening. And to everyone at the Rec and Parks team, Lindsay, everyone, thank you so much. You all have a great weekend.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.